Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Julie McNamara, and I'm the Director of Programs, Partnerships, and Events for the Canadian Housing and Renewal Association. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the land which I'm currently on, which is in Ottawa, and that is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people, and I thank them for allowing me to live, work, and play on this land. Now, hopefully everybody on here is familiar with Zoom at this point, but just to recap, today's webinar is in real time. You should now be able to see the title screen for today's presentation and be able to hear me via your computer speakers, headset, or through telephone if you've chosen to dial in. As we're in webinar format, you are all muted. And if you wish to ask questions, you may type them in the Q&A section on the webinar control panel at any time during the presentation. I'll be keeping an eye out for those, and we'll address any questions that you have at the end of the webinar. So today's topic is tech resources to support affordable housing providers. Affordable housing providers take pride in providing high standard of service to their tenants. With the demand for affordable housing increasing across Canada, housing providers need access to tech resources that help them streamline processes. Today, we're joined from Yardi, Demtroys, and Dynatouch to learn more ways about how your organization can improve efficiency and improve tenant services. So welcome, Jim, Mike, and Ali. So Jim, if you'd like to get us started, and then we'll just roll out your presentations and then take the questions and answers at the end.
Will do. Hello, everybody. Let me get my screen up. Does everybody hear me okay? Let's start my slideshow. Okay, does everybody see that okay?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, great. So I'll start. I'm used to doing very detailed presentations, and so I'm going to try to condense this. So if it sounds a little off, I'm just trying to give everybody the Cliff Notes. Welcome. Thanks for having us on here. My name is Jim Morris. I work for a company called Dynatouch Interactive Technologies. We are a solution provider for self-service solutions, kiosk solutions. We've been in business since 1988. We specialize in doing 100% turnkey self-service solutions. I like to say cradle to grave. What that means is we design the process for someone to participate in an interactive self-service solution in a public setting. We integrate the hardware together that's needed to meet the mission. We put special software on there to make it safe and secure, and then we design the user experience. And then what we do from there is we ship these, install them on site, train staff, and manage the projects from there on out. So 100% turnkey solution provider. We do a lot with government, healthcare, human resources, utilities. We are part of Constellation Software, so we're Canadian owned. I'm actually based in Austin, Texas. Our company's based in San Antonio, but we are part of Constellation, which is a $4 billion, almost $5 billion company, one of the largest in North America. So Canadian owned, US based. But as I go through this, I'm going to talk about two products that we have been working with. Obviously in the US, we call them public housing authorities, public housing commissions. We've sold two different products and worked with them over the last 6-7 years. We've worked with most of the major public housing entities down here in the United States, include NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Baltimore, most of the largest ones, all the way down to some of the smallest ones with this technology. So I'm going to start first with our self-service kiosk for residents, for tenants, where it is basically what it is a self-service a kiosk for them to go to scan their paperwork and to have it remotely submitted to the housing commission, the housing entity staff, to fill out digital documents, and to access other web resources, to upload documents into portals, web portals with your housing provider software, such as Yardi, who I know is on this call. So but a lot of the two problems that our products have been solving for some of the housing entities in the States is or some of the challenges I should say that they're dealing with post-pandemic is that basically the overwhelming volume of applicants and residents that they're needing to serve. I know the same issues are going on in Canada with the cost of living. It's going on in Austin, where I live, where folks can't afford the housing. It's skyrocketing through the roof. It's a crisis down here. When I hear it's a crisis up north as well, but it's driving more and more people to seek affordable housing assistance, obviously, more applicants. A lot of the agencies down here are understaffed or underfunded. It's a persistent problem in getting funding. It's a political football that changes, based on the election. And so, but they're constantly have been dealing with that in the time I've been working with them. They also get a high volume of traffic in their office for both appointments and walk-ins. Obviously, everybody was shut down during the pandemic, but that's really sped up. Since everybody's been opening up, and they're trying to manage that flow. How do you effectively manage that flow? Then there's just the volume of paperwork, applications, the day-to-day processes. They've went into the pandemic, a lot of antiquated manual processes, which they have realized they needed to streamline, and they need to do it fast. And then there's some of the issues left over from the pandemic, the great resignation, the challenges of filling open positions they're dealing with. From a resident perspective, some of the residents down here, a good percentage don't have reliable access to broadband, or they're not comfortable using their smartphones, or they got to go to their nieces to use a laptop to access anything. So that the kiosks have kind of acted as a bridge technology digital inclusion device for many of those residents. So this right here, what you see is one of the solutions we provided to public housing. It's called the Public Housing One-Stop Kiosk. We've sold over 450 of these south of the border throughout the US. And basically what this is, I'm gonna try to condense it. I'm used to going and getting real wonky with this, but this is an indoor kiosk solution. It meets ADA compliance in the US. I believe it's ACA in Canada. It comes with assistive technology upgrades as well. But basically, it's a station for them to go to scan their documents. It has a multi-page scanner attached that has a flatbed and a multi-page scanner, so someone can scan IDs, birth certificates, one page at a time, or they can scan up to 50 pages at a time. We have processes set up and software on there that allow that paperwork to be submitted remotely, either as an auto email or into, say, like Yardi Rent Cafe, which is a great product. We have a lot of Yardi customers. And so it's a resource for them to go to with that paperwork that is providing that self-service solution. Has a keyboard too, a touchscreen monitor, has a full-page printer. A lot of PHAs, some of them, or I call them PHAs down here, a lot of housing commissions are actually going all digital as well, where they can fill out digital documents on the kiosk and go paperless, where we can take those into Adobe fillable PDFs for your paper, for your paperwork to be filled out there. Or if it's within Yardi, for example, I'm using them as an example because they're one of the leading software companies. You can go log into Rent Cafe. It'll pull up those forms within there, and they can fill it out in the kiosk and submit it. That's kind of in a nutshell what folks are using this particular product for. There's a lot more details that go into that. We've put webcams on these so you can do virtual video chats with residents. We've set that up for many public housing entities down here in the US. To give you an example where these are being put in the public housing buildings themselves, so residents don't have to come into the office all the time to drop off and submit their paperwork. They're putting them in the public housing offices as well. So, to help meet the volume of folks that are coming in, you can send them to the kiosk. They're being put out in the community, at community centers, libraries, where maybe there's clusters of residents. Not everybody is in a public housing building, obviously. Down here, we call it Section 8, Housing Choice Voucher, where there's clusters of those folks out in the community, where they're putting these out there. So I kind of like to, when I talk about this solution, maybe it's not the best analogy, but I use it. It's kind of like the airport kind of analogy. I'm old enough to remember we used to all go to the airport and wait in, either first class, which I never was, or you go to the economy line, and all 200 people have to wait in the same couple lines you got on the airplane. As technology came out, the airlines got smarter. They realized they had to deal with their customers in multiple ways. And that's kind of how I present this, where there's kiosks, you still meet with people, there's online resources, there's Yardi Rent Cafe, there's different ways that you can interact with your residents. This isn't taking out that face-to-face with your residents. It's just providing an additional tool. It's giving them choice. It's providing a resource there for when it's really busy in the office for them to use and submit this. So we've had over 750,000 resident user sessions, tenant user sessions on these kiosks alone. So we've done projects as far as New York City Housing Authority has been using this device, the first generation and now the second generation, for over going on 6 years now. They've purchased 165 of these, for example, and put them out throughout all out New York City. So that's in a nutshell one of the products we have. And some of the different things it does. I have Yardi up here because we work with Yardi. Yeah, a lot of Yardi accounts, and I know they're on here as well. I can go in more detail if you guys on a side conversation. Reach out to us. My contact information after this. So will the association to reach out. I'm happy to talk to you. It doesn't cost anything to go into more detail about what that particular product does. We also have I'm going to speed this up. Here's some pictures. Here's where we're making them down here. Here's some, I believe this is Baltimore City Housing Authority. This is Los Angeles right there. This gentleman's really big because that's 5 feet tall. So the size of this kiosk is about 5 feet tall, 3 feet wide from left to right. And the depth is about 20 inches, to give you an example, and it's for an indoor solution. So we have another solution that is for your lobby waiting area. It's a queuing software. We've customized it for housing as well. And basically what this is, it's a separate software package where for your offices, when people walk in, if you don't have that organized, I should say organized, if you have like receptionists with a clipboard and that's how everybody has to check in, and she has to write their name down, this is automating that process. So it's a self check-in where folks, we customize the screen of this software and the screens for people to check in, to tell them who they are, their name, why they're there, and have them make a couple choices to announce kind of why they're there. You know, I'm here, I'm an applicant, or I'm currently getting services, or I'm staying at such and such building and I need help, or I'm dropping a rent check off, whatever. We organize that so folks can check in, tell them their name, hit enter. They can even enter their cell phone number so they can be texted when you're ready to see them. They go to the kiosk, they check in, they sit down, and then what it does in real time is it shows everybody in the back office on a dashboard who's out front and why they're there and how long they've been waiting. And it tracks all this. So it kind of helps organize that process of folks walk-in, whether they're walk-in or appointment based, is being used fairly extensively down here in the States within housing commission offices to manage their foot traffic in. And it tracks all that, how many people are checking in per hour, per day, per week, per year. So then you have those metrics, you know, what times you kind of know, but kind of really nails that down. Hey, who's coming in and when and what are they asking for? And so it's a system we designed about 7 years ago, and it's been used, for example, throughout the U.S. military, public housing entities down here, many other government facilities, for anybody that has to deal with the public or has lots of traffic coming in on a day-to-day basis. You can even put, if you have a smart TV, which about most TVs are these days, their initials up on your waiting area that just tells the resident, the tenant, that they're there. We know you're there and they're checked in. It has QR codes, so someone can walk in and take a QR code and check in from their phone. It has a text feature. So we're seeing both these two systems. So those are two systems. Show you what the dashboard is here of what basically everybody in your back office your caseworkers, everybody has a different term for them, can pull up and see this in real time, what's going on, and someone just highlights somebody if they want to serve them. And so it helps organize your office traffic, your back office, and it just makes everybody much more efficient with that software. So I've really sped through some of this. I don't know where I'm at with time. If anybody has any questions, let me know. I'm going to have my contact information here. Reach out. There's my email right there. Write it down. Email me. I'd love to set up a time to talk. I can go through. I can talk about the pricing ballpark of what these cost, either of these systems. But one thing I want to emphasize is both these systems are customizable. So we customize these for your organization, not what New York City did or Toronto wants or Vancouver, but what you need, unless you're like Vancouver or Toronto. We customize the interface, the look, the feel, the branding to make it work for what your needs are. But I think that is it. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
What
How
we'll
we're
do
doing on
is,
time.
yeah, what we'll do is we'll just get everybody to ask their questions at the end of the session, and then
Sure.
we'll revisit them just to make sure everybody has enough time to do their presentation. So I think,
Okay.
Mike, we had you next. on the list. So whenever you're ready, let's let you have the spotlight.
All right, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to present to everybody. And should see my screen there now. So Demtroys is a building automation solutions company. We are both hardware and software. So we work to automate your building, and more specifically, the heating and cooling portions of your energy costs. So our purpose overall is to help you reduce your energy consumption. We focus on the cost savings specifically from the largest portion of an energy bill. So typically your heating and or cooling, which represents 65 to 85% of a gas bill, or 50 to 65% of the electricity bill. We provide solutions, both hardware and software, and ultimately we are saving you money, and significant amount of money. Wrong direction. So I'm not going to read this. I will have the presentation available for distribution after the fact. But essentially what this slide is saying is that we right now, and very specifically in public housing, we typically allow 100% of energy usage for heating and cooling, if cooling is an option, all of the time, right? Typically from September through June, where we typically only need about 10 to 14 days of that 100% capacity of heating. So there's a whole bunch of technical pieces that go behind this, but really what we're doing in general is that we're allowing 100% consumption of energy or usage of energy when we only really need it for about 10 to 14 days per year at 100%. Most of the time we need a significant amount less. And that's because, we don't need that full capacity in order to heat a building in the middle of winter when it's only, 0 degrees Celsius out. Whereas when it is minus 30 degrees out, we absolutely need 100%. So our system helps manage that portion, or helps minimize using 100% all of the time. Here is a graph, and again, we're getting into some technical side of things, so I'll keep it as simple as possible. The gray line represents just the reference of what a chart would look like over the course, between September and April of any given year. When we install the Demtroy system, the building management system, we can see the reduction. And so our system is focusing on this gray section area where the demand management is actually either required or not required. And again, there's some technical aspects that go into that and how we do that. But essentially what our system does is it measures outside temperature, right? So the actual temperature at the building site itself, not using weather network or any other weather stations. So it's a built-in weather station at the building location, measures outside temperature, and then compares that with the temperature inside each unit, okay? And then says, is there actually a demand required? And this is where it comes back to the previous slide where, in most cases, it's not required, or at least not at 100%. So for example, if we take an autumn or a fall day, early October or so, where the temperature is 20 degrees outside, it's actually quite warm. But by law, we actually have to give, right, that heating capacity or that heating allowance because it's required from September to June. But in the unit itself, it's already over 20 degrees. So there's not actually a demand required. Our system would just scale everything back and say it's not required right now. So even if the thermostat was turned all the way up, no heat would be provided because it's matching or it's above the bare minimum temperature that's required. Just a really quick case study here on a building that was done in Toronto just last year or earlier this year. So in a very short amount of time, and this is over the course of 8 months, this is 3 different buildings. We saved, with our system installed, 2.2 million kilowatt hours. So to put that in perspective, based on Ontario rates currently, right, somewhere in and around that 10 cents per kilowatt hour range, that's over $200,000. It's $221,000 saved just in heating costs alone. Now, our system maintains the building temperature, maintains the unit temperature, and falls within all regulations, but it just prevents the overuse of. So instead of giving 100% capacity and allowing tenants to turn their units up to 30 degrees or 32 degrees Celsius, we contain those temperature limits. Talk a little bit about that. So by how we do that is we start with minimum and maximum set points. So for example, 16 degrees through 24 degrees as an example. Now, as the building owner or as the public housing, that you have the ability to control those parameters 100%. Summer mode. So instead of having to go and turn off breakers or individual units, literally the computer will do that for you. If there's a vacant unit, you want to maintain temperature, but you don't necessarily want to heat it to, the true standard of living. So you can put it on vacancy mode and it will maintain, a basic temperature so that pipes don't freeze. Other, more advanced functions is periods of reduced power or enhanced power and setback periods. So times when you don't need as much, it can either be done as a percentage or a specific temperature. And then, preheating the building in the early morning prior to people waking up is an example of periods of enhanced power. This is the thermostat and what it looks like. This would go into each individual unit. So we control the building on a unit level, not an overall. So we don't work as just an overall software solution. We're actually monitoring and controlling the temperature within each unit. Now, each unit, each one of these specific thermostats has the ability to control every type of heating or cooling appliance. So electrical baseboard, fan coils, PTACs, and some of these you may or may not be familiar with, and I'm more than happy to talk about them in more detail. We rely on wireless RF, so radio frequency technology. We do not rely on what's called IoT or Internet of Things. Just less issues with reliability as far as carrying a signal. So 2.4 gigahertz radio wire mesh network is what we work with. This is the interesting stuff, the portal. So I'm going to switch my screen here real briefly so that I can show you the portal in real time. So this is what it looks like. So quick example is unit 101. It's a 3-day period, and we can see some basic statistics. We can see where the temperature was set and what that graph looks like, as well as what the exact outdoor temperature was over, these period of days as well as times. So for example, we have, a tenant that's complaining from unit, 101 as an example, saying my unit is too cold. Now I can go and look directly at, this is a 3D visualizer, and I can say unit 101, and I can look specifically, there's 2 zones, right? The living room and the bedroom. They're sitting at 22 degrees and 22.5 degrees respectively, and humidity is great. So in this particular case, there is no real issue. I don't have to send someone out to actually go and look at the unit itself. I can see directly from this portal that everything seems to be fine. There are a couple units that are running a little bit warmer, and we can see that indicated by different colors. So we can monitor the entire building's function through this remote portal, as well as all of the analytics that go along with it. I'm going to return back to my just previous presentation screen here and just finish up for you. So all of the data is available that monitors and calculates and determines what those preset temperatures are. Everything is modifiable via the portal, but also on site. And all of that data is available to download into an existing building management system, or you can use our own. We manage the entire experience right through the analysis. So we do free building analysis to understand what opportunities can be presented as far as savings are concerned. We work with you on the grant or savings process through the different energy providers. We do the installation, the training, of course, the optimization, the most important part. We want to make sure it functions year in and year out, and then any maintenance that is required along with that. And finally, here's my contact information. There's certainly far more detail that's available, as well as case studies that can support what we do and how we do it. The big thing here, of course, is managing your energy, making sure your tenants are comfortable and within the regulations, of course, but minimizing the overuse. And we're seeing now more than ever that energy is becoming a very hot commodity. Price increases overall across the board in Canada are steadily increasing. I can tell you that in Canada, as far as Canada is concerned, we are ranked from an electricity cost perspective. We're 75th in the world. So meaning we're not all that expensive. We're 75 people. There's 74 people ahead of us, 74 countries. From a natural gas perspective, we're 31st in the world as far as that cost compared to what other costs are in the world. So prices are high, and they will continue to grow and increase. And we're helping to minimize those costs for the housing authorities and consumers alike, trying to minimize. I think I'm within my time limit here. But I am done at this point and welcome any questions and opportunities to talk with you further.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mike. You were right. You were right on your time, which is great. So I invite our next presenter, Ollie from Yardi, to start your presentation.
Great. Thank you very much. And I'd like to start by thank you all for having me here today. I'm Ali Mazhar. I'm a manager of payment services here at Yardi Systems. And I want to talk about three things today. One, we're going to talk about how cloud services help organizations like yourselves scale. We want to talk about my specialty, the evolution of payments in the Canadian industry. And lastly, we're going to talk about how Yardi helps social housing clientele like yourselves save using our platform as a whole. Now, I want to start by showing a brief 1-minute video. I like to talk, but this video does a lot better than me. So hopefully that video worked really well on your end as it did on mine, but it gives us a really good understanding of Yardi and its foothold in the social housing industry. It kind of shows how much of an outreach Yardi has into the different communities and what we do to live up to our corporate statement of giving back to our communities here. So to talk a little bit about organizations and how they scale on Yardi using our cloud infrastructure, first and foremost, we help organizations reduce overhead. By leveraging a cloud solution, we eliminate the need to manage any type of hardware or server infrastructure. It allows Yardi to take on that load. It allows Yardi to ensure that we are maintaining data security and reliability. We are using industry best security measures. This includes data recovery. This includes encryption, and of course, around-the-clock server monitoring. We protect your organization from hardware failures or outages. That 99.999% or 7 nines of availability is important to us as well to ensure that your users never see downtime and see key performance at all times. But through the pandemic and through a lot of change in today's industry with remote work culture and in-office work culture, we want to ensure we're keeping employees together. And by doing so, our cloud interface and our cloud environment allows us to help increase organizational efficiencies. We deploy centralized databases. We use real-time web access for authorized remote users. And we ensure that key Active Directory controls for your users are built into our software. Now, from a payments perspective, I want to talk about how Yardi has helped evolve this industry. I want to start talking by current state. And in today's world, we see payments in Canada be a little bit behind the curve than most other nations. The United States is probably about 5 years or so ahead of our industry, whereas the UK and the EU, which Yardi has expanded into recently, is about 7, maybe 8 years. In some regions, probably about 10 years ahead of our market. In today's industry, in today's world, what we see in terms of payments is manual files, manual initiation of payments, and from that, manual return handling. Reporting tools are decentralized. So once a payment is processed on a banking website, to return that data back into our central environment, and in this case, our Voyager environment here, it takes time and it takes effort. Now, all of these processes here are manual, they're rich text, they're data that users can essentially see, intercept, and modify. So in the current state, there is an increased risk of data entry and fraud-related activity. Now, from an organizational perspective, this is all time. It takes time to create a file. It takes time to upload a file. It takes time to manage return entries and identify who a return entry belongs to. It takes time to find reports and match individual reports, whether they work perfectly on the first go or whether an Excel guru needs to take reports and combine them together to actually find some level of efficiency out of those reportings. The overall goal of Yardi and Yardi systems has always been organizational efficiency through, one, our software in automating and centralizing. So in the future state, and in a couple of slides here, we'll talk about some of the ways that we've helped evolve and some of the processing statistics in the Canadian market. But what we've done here in this future state is to automate. We automate receipting. We automate payment initiation. So taking the time to pull files, to communicate with the bank, to make sure the bank has picked up payment instruction and processed it, we eliminate the need for that business practice. Now, because Yardi as a business knows what the payment instruction is, we would now also be able to handle errors, returns, NSFs. We have the ability to take that detail, tie it to a specific resident, tie it to a specific transaction, and populate it on a dashboard for easy access, easy action. Realistically, do we need to reverse a payment? Do we need to reaction a payment? And the time to do so is cut dramatically just by that automated reporting. Now we centralize it all because Yardi knows what the instruction is. Yardi knows what the payment details are. We know where the payment is in its life cycle. We're able to take back that reporting that used to be only available on a bank website and centralize it into this system. Yardi likes to be a one-stop shop from your resident management all the way to payment instruction. And this is how we do so, by providing a convenient dashboard that is going to provide this centralized reporting from payment creation, whether that's from a charge level or a receipt level, all the way over to account reconciliations. Now, with all of this, we can't talk about automating, we can't talk about the advancement of payments in the industry without talking about risk controls. Yardi does a fantastic job at standardizing payment instruction. Payments Canada is undergoing a modernization project itself to ensure that the financial industry in Canada is also standardizing payment instruction. Yardi has an in-house risk team that will also monitor for exceptions. We make sure that businesses like yourselves are processing within expected thresholds. And in the instance where that expectation exceeds, we have a team that's available to catch these types of exceptions and ensure that a $1,000 payment didn't accidentally become $10,000 or $100,000 because of manual entry errors. We've done a lot more in terms of implementing 3DS, which is basically just ensuring that on the merchant rails on the credit card system, that the person who's actually initiating a payment is truly the user that that card belongs to. There was mention earlier through our Rent Cafe platform, and through Rent Cafe, we've also built in a lot of resident account verification processes as well. This is to ensure that when a bank account is added into our system by a tenant, it is in fact their account that they're adding, and there's no fraudulent activity occurring, and there's no risk in payment collection. So all in all, in this future state, there's no searching for reports, there's no massaging of details. Everything becomes available for you in a convenient, centralized platform. It's automated. There's no need to go out of your way to try to process payments, and you allow the system to essentially take care of it for you. Now, here are some processing solutions that Yardi's made available for social housing. Our standard recurring payments, so those are your pre-authorized debits that you have agreements with your residents for. Those get set up and they run on day one of every month, and we make sure that those get processed in bulk, and that's a Canadian industry practice, and we process quite a lot of payments every month. We also allow for ad hoc one-time payments, so those payments that happen on the fly, those payments that need to get processed mid-month for whatever reason they may be. We provide various mediums to collect payment. Those are through our online platforms, which then open the door to mobile check processing, text payments, smart assistant payments, and a whole plethora of other options that 21st century payments allows us to accomplish. We also have an AP side of things. So payments to vendors, being able to reissue tenant payments, like for security deposits, for example. We have the ability to initiate those as well. So essentially, payments leaving your accounts or payments entering your accounts is something that Yardi helps to facilitate today. Now, just to give an idea of Canadian processing statistics here, just to give you an idea of the adoption of payment processing in the social housing and the Canadian market as a whole. Today, Yardi processes nearly 1.9 billion transaction dollars a month. That equates to nearly 845,000 transactions individually. And from a payment perspective and where these funds are coming from, $30 million are roughly from credit cards and debit cards. So we see a little bit of a shift from checks or pre-authorized debits from bank accounts and allowing the entry of additional payment methods, such as credit card and debit card payments. And $46 million of all of that comes from our online platforms. So one-time payments initiated by the resident themselves for these ad hoc related charges. So a lot of versatility, a lot of new growth in Canada, a lot of shift from traditional checks to these online electronic types of payments. Now, Yardi is an integrated platform. We pride ourselves in being an integrated solution stack. In the social housing sphere, here are our solutions that we have available for you. We have our core Voyager platform to manage your property management needs. That's your accounting, your job costing, fixed assets, document management. We use Rent Cafe for compliance and marketing. That is your waitlist management, your RGI interim reviews, portals and websites to help with your future residents finding properties to stay at. We are a procurement platform as well, from purchase orders to invoices to payments. And eventually, come 2023 roadmap, we'll also be looking at compliance where it comes to vendor management. We integrate into the energy suites, we have asset solutions, and very important is that concept of risk management. We help with resident screening and we help with pre-qualifications for residents. Our most common products on how social housing saves on Yardi is these 4 key components. Our clients are adopting very heavily this Yardi Voyager platform to simplify accounting, to improve productivity and increase oversight. They are utilizing Rent Cafe to digitize compliance. They are using it to help their residents empower themselves to submit work orders and to submit ad hoc payments. Our clients are using Yardi Procure to Pay to eliminate paper, to automate approval workflows, reduce errors, and to help gain overall visibility in control costs. And lastly, Yardi Maintenance IQ. It helps to improve transparency, maximize your efficiency, monitor performance, and ensure maintenance from your residents are being handled in sufficient time. I'd like to thank everybody for their time today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and if there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Great, thank you so much. We will open the Q&A now. It's been open the whole time, but if anybody has any questions, I invite you to type them in there now. You can also, never mind, I was going to say you can type them in the chat, but I disabled the chat. Do any of our presenters have questions for one another while we wait for others to come in with questions? It's always the hard part to just sit in silence and wait. We'll just give everybody kind of another minute or two, and there might be no questions. All of your presentations were quite thorough, so I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if there weren't any questions for us today.
From my perspective, CHRA's perspective here is, aside from the recording being sent out, I guess, to all the participants, is I can send my presentation to be made available so that someone can review it in,
Absolutely, yeah.
PDF format, so that, again, it's something they can review on their own time and read through some more of the details.
Absolutely.
I can send that to you, and I guess that can be forwarded along.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess we will dismiss everyone quite early here. And then if anybody on the line here has any questions, you can send them my way and I'll send it to the panelists. And if not, we will see you next time. And thanks from all of us at CHRA to our audience, but also to our presenters for today's presentation. So thanks again, everyone. Take care and be safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.